Well, hello and welcome to 180 milliseconds too late, the SSA Rocket League podcast. From a very, very, very hot Johannesburg. We're dying here. I only just put on a shirt before the start of the podcast because I didn't want to get clapped by Twitch for some sort of violation, but we are dying out here. But how's it and welcome everybody. All right, so a few things. We got a jam-packed episode of 180 milliseconds too late. The SSA Rocket League podcast. We're going to talk about RSC. We're going to talk about Six Mans. We're going to talk about the ACGL grind. We're going to talk about the Rumble, what happened last Saturday and what's happening this coming Saturday. First and foremost, I don't know if anyone saw the news last night that Team Liquid tweeted that they have left Rocket League esports. They're basically saying the ecosystem doesn't really work. It's kind of an all or nothing ecosystem. You either, to survive, you have to be winning. And they say they want to come back as soon as the environment and the ecosystem is more conducive to, everybody having a crack and a chance and being able to survive, they'll be back. So that's very, very bad news. And then a week ago, I posted this tweet. I said, I'm posting this in the hope that I look like a genius. The announcement of the 2024 RLCS season will be made on or before the 23rd of November, probably the 22nd. And I think I was clearly on something because that has not come to pass. It's 8 o'clock at night. Granted, it is still earlier in the day in America. Maybe it still happens. Maybe it comes. But none of that news yet. And I did see in chat Jamal wants good news about RLCS. I will say this. There are teams being signed, North America, EU. There's a lot going on that tells me that there has to have been background talks with the big orgs that have teams, because they're not going to go through the effort of signing teams if there's no RLCS. So clearly there will be RLCS. When it starts, what it looks like, we're all waiting for that news. All right, so that is that. Let's get on with tonight's episode. First up, we're going to talk about RSC, what's happening with RSC, where it stands, and of course our RSC correspondent is Triple M. So, mate, hello and welcome once more. What have we got going in the RSC this week?
Oh, firstly, hello, Greybeard. It's a pleasure to be on, and hello to everybody in chat. So there's a few things we're going to discuss. Obviously, since we are itching closer and closer to the playoffs, I believe there's only 1 week left of RSC, or just about. It's going to be very important to talk about the franchise standings as well as the standings in the different divisions. But before we get to that, I would like to highlight a few individuals that have performed well, not just across the season, but I think just specifically in the last few days. And we're going to start with Flosi, because this is a player that I wasn't really paying too much attention to in the rival division. Obviously, there is a lot going on as far as RSC is concerned, and it's hard to keep track of everyone. But Flosi is a player who I believe it's been slightly underrated in some ways. You look at goals, you look at assists, you look at shots per game, you look at saves, MVP awards, demos, you look at all the key metrics that, I think define a good Rocket League player, at least on a basic level. Flosi's got it. And on top of that, in terms of boost efficiency, they're one of the best in the entire division. If my memory serves me correctly, and let me just get the numbers here so I don't make a fool of myself. If my memory serves me correctly, he's actually sitting in first place for the most amount of boost pads collected in his particular division, which is an interesting number that's not on this graphic even, right? And so this is a player who I believe deserves a lot of credit, and just wanted to give a shout out to Flosi. It's been an interesting season for him, and it's been an interesting season for his team. They got a really big win pretty recently. It was a game that I casted actually. And I just had to bring it up.
No, it was a very good game because it was against, I'm trying to remember. Valkyrie Knights, of course, because the Norns, who were top of the standings and looking like a very, very strong team, and they cleaned them out 4-0. That was a solid performance. So, Flosi coming up in the world.
Yeah, and what surprised me the most about that performance was just how Norns didn't look like a team. And a part of me was trying to battle to try to figure out, is it because they weren't playing at their best, or is this just a case of Diamond or Valkyrie Knights being better here as a team? And I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was just because Diamond were better. Yes, there might have been external circumstances that we might not know. Maybe there was something going on with the Norns roster that just perhaps that led to them not being able to click. But at the end of the day, you've got to give credit where credit is due. When a team wins 4-0 against a team that was previously top in that particular tier, regardless of whether it's rival, elite, or master, you got to give respect, and Flosi was a big part of that. Now, Lunat, of course, we've talked at length in RSC about his aggression, his contributions to the team, as well as Wrath. But I think Flosi for me was the standout player in that particular series, and so far for them, as far as everything is concerned. And then we move on to Yoshi, another player who had a fantastic game against White, I believe in the Elite Division. 6 goals, 4 assists, 17 shots, 2 saves. Not that many saves across the series, but to be fair, you don't need to do that much defensive work when you're doing the bulk of the carrying in the offensive load. 17 shots in a series, that's almost unheard of. In 4 games, that is a lot of shots. I believe in one of the games he actually got 10, which is just mind-blowing. It was a monumental performance, and a player who I wouldn't say has had the best of seasons. There are definitely a lot of players out there who are having great seasons, but as far as the last few games are concerned, he's definitely starting to hit some good form and some good momentum.
Where are these numbers from, Triple M? From what period of time? Is this for
this game? This was their last series against
the last
White,
series,
so taken from those 4 games. Yes,
moly,
just those 4 games. And that's why I wanted to highlight this game specifically, because if you look at Yoshi's numbers throughout the season, again, it's not super impressive, but I think this series in particular is why I wanted to highlight him this evening, because 17 shots in 4 games against any team in RSC is just, it's mind-boggling. And then to get the assists as well on top of the shots, unbelievable.
Fantastic. Good stuff. My man Yoshi, well done. Good stuff. Good going. And then we got to talk about Happy Meal of Professor against Crystal. This was the 4 games they played, I believe, earlier this week against Crystal. 6 goals, 6 assists, 16 shots as well, similar to Yoshi. That is unbelievable. And then also chipping in with the saves as well. It was a remarkable performance by a remarkable player, a player who I'm sure many of you in chat and many Rocket League fans who may not be watching the stream know very well. Happy Meal, obviously one of the OGs, I would say, of the scene, and has been playing at a high level for quite some time now, showing again why he is such a bargain. He's one of those players that I could not believe it took so long for a team to pick him up during the draft phase of RSC. And the fact that Professor's got him, might be a bit of a bargain, even though they're not doing particularly well in terms of the standings, still trying to find that top 4 spot, and it's looking a bit precarious with 1 week to go. Happy Meal was still a good signing nevertheless, and his contribution in that series has just given them a glimmer of hope as we approach the end of RSC. All right, cool. Well, I think, so you've highlighted 3 particular players across the tiers, which is great. And there is one of the joys of RSC and what they do is the wealth of data and info and stats that they have. And there is players of the week for each tier. So I thought you would have a quick run through all of those, and then we'll look at the standings and for each of the tiers with 1 week to go, because we're now, it feels like just yesterday we were at the fun, this is this new league, it's so exciting. Now we got 1 week left. It's like do or die for the playoffs. And remember that we do have a prize pool of 12,000 Rand across the tiers. So there is a little bit of cash to be playing for. So players of the week, let's have a look. First up in the, why is rivals first? It should be prospect first. There we go. Prospect players of the week. Now this is everything up to the end of Sunday. Where the end of week 5. So it doesn't include any games played this week. So as we run through all of the players, MVP points per game, Vino, 543 average points per game, which is pretty good going. And then Triple M, I don't know how you say this name, finisher, goals per game. Is that Ruga?
I think Redega, maybe? I don't know, actually. I think it's
Riga. Someone in chat help us out there. But from Unity, scoring 1.5 goals per game. So doing the job. He was the player of the week last week there. And then the Bromeo from the Bros, striker, shooting percentage, 80% shooting conversion rate, which is exceptional. I mean, Triple M, we've cast a number of games where who was it? I don't know. I can't even. There's so much competition going on. I can't even remember where it was. But at one point, we've seen like 16 shots and 2 goals. So 80% is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, just outside of RSC, I saw a game, just in the Rumble, actually, that comes to mind. And I think it was Guns, who we all know is a remarkable player, and funnily enough is leading in all the key metrics as far as RSC is concerned. Even he was, missing quite a few shots. And if a player of that caliber, with that level of mechanics, can have, a bit of an off day in front of goal, then, 80% for somebody in the prospect division is definitely more than impressive. In fact, it's outstanding. It's unbelievable. Scoring is not an easy thing to do in Rocket League. Some of the best struggle with that in terms of getting it up to the high 80%. I think that is just, that's unbelievable.
All right, good week for him. And then Papito, assists per game, playmaker, 1.75 assists per game over the prospect tier. And then Vino again, appearing for the second time, Savior, his number of saves, 1.75 saves per game. So that is the prospect tier. And then moving on now to the rival tier. And if I just go back for a second, we see in the prospect tier 2 players from Bijou, and then in the rival tier again 2 players from Bijou and 2 players from Valkyrie Knights, which does make sense because those are 2 of the top teams in this tier.
Yeah, and speaking of the top teams in the tier, those are 2 of the top players, I would say, in the tier. Now, with all fairness to, I believe, I'm trying to remember, I think it's Color Code. He's also having a remarkable season in the rival division. He's somebody who deserves a lot of respect this season. But Flosi and Pisankat, who I believe now is what's his new name?
Amexi,
yes. Amexi has been remarkable. They both deserve to be here as far as the shout out, not just for team of the week, but just players who have been really productive in general. I mean, Amexi, it really is, it does boggle the mind how somebody can just be so inevitable at scoring goals. 34 in the season so far, by the way, for those wondering. The second place close to him is Color Cold with 32, and then it's Alf with 23. So the disparity between third place and the top 2 in this division is insane. And Amexi, aka Pisankat, deserves a lot of credit.
And then Flosi getting a 50% conversion rate. We were just talking about Bro with his 80%. So the prospect boys showing up the rival players. All right. Yeah. So, and we move along now to where is Elite? Oh, this order got all mixed up. Okay, so there we go. Here's the Elite Players of the Week. MVP. Yoshi, and you were just talking about him, and you were just talking about that one game, but showing up as the MVP with 445 points per game.
Yeah, again, a big week for Yoshi and a big performance for him. And I'm just trying to pull up the rest of his numbers here and try to get a bit more context as to how he's doing in the season. Can't find his name for some reason.
Well, while you're looking for him, he appears again in finisher. So getting the points per game and goals per game, 1.25 goals per game. And then Kirika getting striker. Now, I think she played, didn't she come out of... She might...
Yep.
Doesn't she plays in Rivals, doesn't she? She does play in Rivals. She does. So she came and subbed in Elite and got striker with a 50% shooting percentage.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, that's someone who, again, another player who, thanks to RSC, somebody who I wasn't really familiar with before, and now I'm almost like, how did I not know about this player before? Having a really impactful season. But just going back to Yoshi, I have found his numbers now.
Yes.
He's got the most hat-tricks in the Elite Division, apparently, according to these numbers.
Wow.
Third most MVPs as well. And at the moment is currently set second for goals scored so far. So
nice.
Doing pretty well across the season. Now, the other metrics are not anything too significant, but I think he's done well enough, not just in the last week, but just in general, to be a player that we should keep an eye on in the Elite Division.
And then D-Money, as the playmaker of the week, with 1 assist per game. And then Savior, saves per game. Tweaks with 2.5 saves per game. That sounds like a net that was under a lot of pressure, but he was there to make it good.
Yeah, it's interesting when a player's making a lot of saves. On the one hand, you have to praise them for their defensive prowess, but on the other hand, you have to wonder why are there that many shots on the target to begin with. And so, is it a case of that team not playing well and this player literally carrying them on their back, or is that a case of it's just Rocket League and you've got to have a good defense? It's something I haven't really figured out yet, and I haven't really drawn any conclusions. But either way, Twix deserves a lot of credit for the work he's doing in front of goal.
And then just reading these numbers here, I see actually, I'm not sure because D-Money, Eric, and Yoshi all have 1 assist per game. So I don't know what determined that D-Money was the top of the numbers that are the same. I don't know if there's decimals there that we're not seeing, but or some other metric. But Eric and Yoshi as well featuring there, so that's pretty good. All right, and then finally, the master players of the week, the top of the tier, and look at that domination by Bro, more than we've seen in any other tier. Bro in the 4 of the 5 metrics for the week.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. It's not something you see very often, but it is remarkable. The Bro team really starting to put in the work towards the end of the season. You wonder if they'd started as well as they are playing now, where they would be in the table. But that's a conversation for another day. I think Happy Meal, Friction, and 2 players who, again, were discussed at length in terms of, the CMV. Happy Meal obviously being seen as a bargain, and then Friction,
upstairs?
I believe, being the more expensive one of the 2. Still a good signing, though. I think this roster is an enigma because I don't know how they haven't performed a little bit more consistently. I sort of eyed them as the ones to watch as far as, the more balanced rosters in this tier. And I guess it's just a testament to how difficult the Master Division is, right? When you've got players performing like this week in, week out, but you're still not where you want to be on the table. It's pretty crazy.
All right, so Happy Meal, Friction, and Happy Meal sharing the spoils there in Happy Meal with the MVP and Playmaker, and Friction with Finisher and Striker, and then Cams from Shadow as the savior, and that doesn't surprise me at all. What does surprise me, not seeing more of Cams in these other awards, but 2.75 saves per game, pretty decent.
And just on Cams, he is 8th overall for saves made in the Master Division, sitting at 31. Lackstar is ahead of him in 7th with 34, and
Wow.
Shadowhunter is below him. Actually, technically they joined 8th because he also has 31. But he's also up there in terms of assists. He's in the top 10 for assists. He's in the top 5 for goals scored so far this season. And he's a player that I've had the pleasure of watching in the Rumble as well, which you'd obviously talk about in more detail with your guest later. Just generally across the board, Cam is a player who I haven't really talked about much in the recent past, but I'm starting to really become a huge fan of because he's got everything. The saves, the mechanical ability, the composure, the decision making, and also just the understanding of the game, positioning. He seems to be one of those players who is really at the top of his game and is still improving day by day. And to see how he's able to just contribute to his team in any way, shape, or form, it's a joy to watch. It's eye candy. So shout out to Cam, man. He's been playing some good Rocket League recently.
And he does feature in a clip later on, which is worth seeing. So yeah, Cam is always a player to talk about. All right, well, let's move on now let's do a quick run through of the standings. So so we know where we are. Why did that appear there? Hold on. Okay, give me 1 second. Oh, that was strange and awkward. Okay, good. Oh, there we go. I know why. All right, cool. Starting with the prospect standings. This is the prospect tier, the lowest tier, week 6. So it does include all the games that have been played up until yesterday. So there are still matches to be played. You can see at the bottom of the table there, 5, 6, 7, and 8, those matches still to be played. But Apex rocking in the prospect division, and then Bijou, Fort Templar, and Valkyrie Knights. Those are the teams currently contesting for the playoffs, which is the top 4. But with a game in hand, I mean, if Obscurity from Shadow, if they 4-0 in their series, they would jump up to 15 points, which would be second.
Yep.
So still a lot to play for, even in these dying moments of the season.
Yeah, and it's not just obscurity gold as well on 11 wins. So if they win their next series as well, with those games in hand, they will also go above Dwarfs or Valkyrie Knights, which is interesting. The Prospect division has provided us with a lot of entertainment because everything is so close, bar of Apex, of course, who are kind of sitting at the top of the mountain. There is still a lot to play for in this last week, and I tell you, it's been interesting to watch this this particular division because it is really hard to separate the teams. If you've watched the games and you use the eye test and just maybe ignore the data and just use what you're seeing on the field, these teams are pretty close in terms of skill, it seems. So there's a lot of chaos in the Prospect division.
Although Apex doing really well with that 71 win percentage and a goal difference of 16, which is fabulous. I mean, 4 times better than second place, which is pretty impressive. And then in the rivals, Norns.
Yep.
I thought Diamond overtook them.
I believe there was I can't remember who said it, but I think it was a misunderstanding that Diamond were going to overtake them because
okay.
I think. No, wait. Yeah, actually, Diamond should have overtaken them.
I wonder if this should have been live. This should be at 24. So these standings are actually wrong. It should be on 24 played. So with that 24 played and Diamond getting those 4, they have overtaken because they've gone to 16. So this is out of date. So let's ignore that one. That one's not correct. And neither are the elite standings. These are from last week, and neither are the master standings. Oh dear, I didn't get. These were supposed to be current as of today. Only Prospect is. So that is a little unfortunate.
Well, I do have the live ones in front of me. Obviously, I can't share the screen, but
just give us the top 3 for Rival.
Okay, so Rival currently Diamond is set at the top. Norns are second, and then I believe it's Okami in third, and Prolific in fourth. And then for Elite, in Elite Division, I believe Kitsune are still top. Haldra are still second. And I think Onyx have moved into fourth now, and Prototype are still in third. So Onyx have moved up, and then Leviathan have moved 1 down. And according to this, I'm trying to see here. Yeah, so Onyx have 12 games won, and I believe it is Leviathan who have 10 games won. So they're now 2 games behind going into the final week. 2 wins behind, pardon me, going into the final week. So your top 4 in Elite is Apex, Valkyrie Knights, Bros, and Bijou. And then in Master, eerily similar as well. Dynasty is still top, so Red are still top on the live standings. Unity, however, have gone down into third place, and it's Drager who've overtaken them in second place.
Wow.
And then fourth place is still being held by Crystal. So Professors still have a lot of work to do if they want to get into that playoff spot. And judging by the amount of games played, it's going to be hard for them. They need a bit of a favor for whoever's playing against Crystal.
They need someone at the top to throw.
Yeah, basically.
All right, cool. Well, I think that's that. Any last comments about the RSC and where we stand and what?
All I would say about the RSC is that when this started, I was hoping that it would be very entertaining in terms of keeping things competitive. Obviously, it's unrealistic to expect a 3-horse race in every division, but the idea was that it would give players an opportunity to genuinely have something to play for across the 8 weeks and not be in a situation where in the 7th week we already know more or less who's qualifying and the bottom 4 teams have sort of given up. And I think it's delivered on that for the most part because we're going into the last week and there's still a lot to play for. And then B, it's also given me an insight into a lot of players that I previously did not know about. You know, the Color Colds of this world, the Fosies of this world, Tubbsy. You know, there's lots of players in the Rival, Elite and Prospect division who I've now become aware of, and I'm starting to really become invested in, you know, just analyzing their games, seeing why they perhaps are at the division that they are and what things they could be doing to improve. So from my end, I'm very happy with RSC at the moment, and I look at all of these tiers and there's still a lot to play for, especially in that Prospect and Rival tier. I think in the Master tier, there is a little bit of a disparity between the top 3 teams and everybody else. But as far as Elite, Rival and Prospect are concerned, I expect a banger of a week ahead of the playoffs to decide which teams will end up in the playoffs.
Well, this time next week, we might be able to have some idea of what those playoffs are going to look like. But man, just around the corner. All right. So Triple M, thank you very much. The RSC correspondent, Triple M, thank you very much. I say goodbye to you and immediately welcome in Drew Moment, who after having an interesting couple of weeks of a technical hacking nature is back and alive. How are you, Drew? Oh, hold on. I've got to get Drew into the channel. Oh, one of my favorite things. Drew, I don't know if you heard any of what I just said, but I realized you weren't in the channel. But here you are now. It doesn't really matter. Drew, how's it going?
It's going well. I mean,
Excellent.
I just heard on the stream something about a hacking issue. Yeah, there was not a good week. But apart from that, yeah, I'm good. How about you?
I'm pretty damn good, I think. All right, well, I have no fancy graphics for you, but I'm glad we finally have you here because I want to get Six Mans featured a lot more on the podcast, what goes on. So Drew, why don't you give us the roundup of what's going down in Six Mans?
So, in the previous month, I can't remember what Arid said. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to be changing within the next month. We had a admin meeting.
Okay.
And the biggest issue that arose was the trialing system doesn't really work. So, starting next month, there is going to be an auto promotion and auto demotion MMR for every rank that isn't X and S.
Okay.
So if you reach this set MMR, you'll automatically be put into the rank above, and I think that's something that has been needed for a while, but we didn't have a conversation about it.
Excellent. Well, that's very good news. I'm glad to hear that. And all right, and what else? I don't know. I don't know what you've prepared for us tonight, but rock and roll. Give us the dope.
So there are some small things as well that aren't as big as what I just said. We are offering promotions to rank C players that are above the MMR they need to be in 2s, of course, because 3s is dead in SSA. You can't get 3s games. So if you are 1350 or above, DM me on Discord, and if you are rank C, I'll give you B. We're also looking out for every single smaller tournament in the region, seeing if there's any players in there that prove themselves. So we are looking at RSC. We're going to try and figure out a way to do it where if you make playoffs, you will receive something in Six Mans, because we want to encourage people to not have to play Six Mans to get a good rank in Six Mans. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, so what problem are you trying to solve there? Because I'm probably trying to solve similar problems in the 2-mans.
So, the issue we're trying to solve... Wait, can you correlate? Can you repeat? Sorry, I forgot.
No, because you were talking about you don't like have to play 6-mans in order to get or whatever. I mean, we want to have more people playing, more action in the promotion, demote, more activity going, right?
Yeah, so we want it to be more community based, because 6-mans at the moment, as much as we will try and change it, it is very toxic and is horrendous. So some people don't enjoy 6-mans, and that's fair. And they may not enjoy that because they're in a rank that they probably shouldn't be in. But because we haven't offered rank checks up until now, they can't get out of that rank unless they do RLCS. And there are some people that don't do RLCS, so they will be stuck in that rank unless they're forced to play.
Okay.
So we're looking at these smaller tournaments and trying to correlate placements to 6-mans ranks. Is a little bit more difficult, but we're trying our best. So if we correlate them to 6-mans ranks, the placements will equal a promotion to a higher rank, where you get to challenge yourself a little bit more.
Okay, makes sense. There's a question from Dutch, and he says, does it have to be current 1350, or can you have been 1350 before?
Current.
Current as in, let's call it the last month.
Yeah, if it's within the last month, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
Just not as if it was like 2 years ago.
Okay, good.
I mean, also, I have compiled a list of players to look out for if you want to hear those.
Yes, please, of course. Definitely want to hear those.
So, we're going to start at the top. But, so this is obviously a name that everyone's heard of before. But I found it really interesting that he started playing again. Skulk G has been back in action.
Mr. G!
And he has been playing quite a lot. I've actually scrimmed with him. So I think he's getting back in action, but I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I hope we see his return. I'd be thrilled if we see the return of Skulk G. I really like that guy.
He's funny as well. A couple of up and comers, two that everyone definitely knows already, and if you don't, you should get to know. Ravi and Devour are probably going to be two future names for this region, so you need to get to know them. They are currently top of rank A, 1 and 2 respectively. They are absolutely blowing the competition out of the water, and these guys have been doing it in ranked, and they instantly came to 6-man and started doing well. They are both very good players.
But we have to, the caveat here is that they're like, 12 and 13 years old, so they're not even going to be in RLCS for another 2 years.
It's crazy. It's crazy that they're that good at that age. It's like, so we have Sethi as well, who's a little bit lower down, but he's still a good player and he's still really young. And they're actually a team, so...
Well, that'd be great. Listen, I think Sethi's good. I think if Sethi can sort out his consistency, because he has great moments and then weird moments. And I think once he irons that out, I think he's absolutely a prospect.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that team needs tournament experience, and hopefully there should be a couple more 6-man cups. I didn't say anything. There's 2 more in A. KV and TK, I don't really need to elaborate. If you've played them in ranked, you kind of just know. They're just very good.
KV and TK. Hold on, is that TEEKEE? TEEKAY. Is that
KAY.
KY, yeah. Then I've definitely run into him somewhere, and okay. All right.
Yeah, he's pretty good, and he's doing quite well. And we move on to B+. This is an old name, so you might even know this name, David. Juice.
Juice! Well, he was on Showmatch this week, 1v1. He was defeated though by Zany, but had a great Showmatch the week before. Yeah, Zany's also great.
Yeah, Juice is he's getting back into the game. He's playing with JRS, who's another player that I probably should have put in X. But yeah, Juice is getting back into it and he's improving. Another one, which is, I think he's actually from Europe, by the way. But I think he's in Reunion. He's French, and his name is Willant.
Oh, now Willant. Someone tagged him on Twitter. Put his name in a tweet I did about players that we don't know about. So this is now the third time, and we'll be talking about him a bit in a while on the ACGL grind, because we got to see a bit of him there. Definitely with potential.
Yeah, he looks like a good player. Okay, Russell, that's crazy. He's not the next Willu. Let's relax. There can only be one Willu. We're going to move down to B, because I've just seen one of them in chat. Anir is another Reunionese player that's just spawned. I don't know how they do it.
Sorry, who's that?
Anir. ANIIR.
ANIIR. Anir. Wow, okay.
Yeah, he's just spawned out of the blue. There's something in the water in Reunion, man, because there's another one right here. I'm going to spell his name because I think it's Y Driller, but Y.D.R.I.LA.X. Yeah, he's also another Reunionese player, and he's quite good. He's top of rank B at the moment.
Okay.
And then the last one for B is one that was doing well on stats in there, on Triple M's part of the show, Yoshi.
Yoshi's getting a lot of coverage tonight.
I don't understand it, because Yoshi's like talked about a lot, but no one's really giving him a chance. And I feel like the promotions from RSC is something that Yoshi could definitely benefit from.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, good.
See, rank C, there was I can only think of one player. I did go through leaderboards and stuff. Gecko. I don't know too much about the guy.
Yeah.
But he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
He's there.
And I've seen him, and I've definitely come across him in ranked or maybe a casual. Definitely a name I've come across at my high level of Rocket League.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so it looks like things are happening within 6 mans, and there are positive plans for the future of the server.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes coming, and there's going to be a lot more.
I love it. Well then, Drew, I look forward to the news as it breaks, as it develops in the weeks and the months to come.
For sure. Thank you for having me on.
An absolute pleasure, and thank you for being here and making yourself available. So we will go from Drew. Next now is Muzzler. Oh, I have to drag him up. Never mind. I'm doing so well at this. Hello, Muzz.
Hey, how you doing, Greg?
You're live on camera and leaning to the left. You got to get yourself in the center of the cam there, if you can. But it doesn't really matter.
If you just pull me randomly onto stream like this, then that's how it works, man.
So,
how's it going?
the ACGL grind. Now, I have to open this by saying ACGL do a grind for Rocket League, for is it COD, and for CS:GO, right?
Yes, there was Apex,
Apex.
COD, and then Valorant.
And-
I think had a whole own spiel going on. Yeah.
Okay, and then Rocket League. So,
Yeah.
so I have to open this with saying that when they announce the grind, they offer a prize pool, and then that prize pool can be increased if the community gets involved in terms of, Muzz, you see now the chat's complaining that you're soft. Can you turn yourself up on your side, because it is there a dial you can? You haven't got the minus dB button lit on the microphone, have you? On the microphone itself? Look on the microphone.
No minus dB here. It says a 0 dB. So
0 dB. Okay.
No, they're lying. I don't know. They're lying to you, man. What are they saying?
Well, listen, you sounded soft, and now chat's complaining that you're soft.
Twitch chat are full of nonsense. You can hear me clearly.
Okay,
right?
well, I've jacked you up to 200%, so if that's as far as I can go. Okay, fine. Okay, so essentially there has to be, the more the community gets involved with the grind, the more the prize pool can increase.
Yeah, of course.
And Rocket League got absolutely smashed. Our social engagement was like 400,000, but COD was like 8 million and Apex was 7 million. We got absolutely humiliated. And
we did.
And because of that, ACGL hinted, Reggie on Twitter in a Twitter response said that this might be the last Rocket League ACGL grind. So I wrote to Reggie and said, the community as a whole, we were a little bit distracted by the setting up of RSC and getting that league going. But they must not drop Rocket League, and that I will commit to making the RLZA grind. I want to rock that motherfucker come next year. At the next grind. So if they have to call us into meetings, whatever it is, make sure we're involved. So I'm telling you that story, and I'm telling chat that story, so that when the grind comes around again, we are going to smash it. I'm just putting in a word early for that. So having said all of that, and with that preamble, Muzz, we had the ACGL grind this last weekend, and I've got some of the I've got the brackets from as it happened. So let's talk it through. Your impressions of the grind. What went down?
Let me touch on the social kind of reach there quickly, Greybeard. So obviously, Apex and Call of Duty absolutely blew us out of the water. Very sad to see. But of course, it is a community-based thing, and so unfortunately, a lot of SSA Rocket League players in the community weren't getting behind the grind. And so when you look at kind of the 6 million reach the other two got, and then we had almost like a pathetic 400K.
Yes.
You're only one person, right? And as big of the kind of personality you get in, the whole community still has to step in regardless. So, it was obviously not the best kind of reach we got on socials. And next time, we'd need a big improvement. And you wouldn't blame ACGL if they took Rocket League out for one season or whatever the case would be. But, next time we need these Oaks to come step up. We need a lot more. The socials are reachable everywhere. TikTok, if you post a video, all of that stuff, if you had to use RLZA grind, it would have worked. So maybe next time a little bit of better, community reach coming up from the rest of, or just anyone in general, besides like you, me, and ACGL, whatever the case was. But yeah, so let's go to that weekend. Myself and Ultrism absolutely worked our tails off Friday to Sunday.
I know. I was chilling watching it. It was great.
Yeah, so it was super fabulous. Obviously, the ACGL crew, Reggie and Blank, are the absolute bomb. These guys rock. And it was good, right? A lot of French reunion teams came, so a lot more reunionese players came out there compared to APL regional grind, but a lot of French players and teams, which is super duper. Broom Legends, No Fear Esports, Legends Esports are all French. And we heard there from Drew talking about Willant. Willant is on that Legends Esports team, which they didn't do too shabby, right? They got through to that semi-finals. They lost to Astronic. It is pretty good. They've got both Rookie, Tesco, and Willant on that team, so they played pretty well. Couple of hat tricks as well coming out there, Greybeard. So people are shooting left, right, and center. It is pretty lacquer to see. White Rabbit Gaming, kind of the fan favorite. Everyone knows WRG. They were playing. They seemed to have a good run through the upper bracket. No one was going to mess with them. But yeah, like I said, three different kind of French outfits came. It was pretty good. Paul Rus played as well.
Never, just on the French outfits. I mean, I think it was announced last week on the podcast that the vast majority of players, I think they were at like 40-something% of players.
Yes.
Yeah. 60%, something ridiculous. I mean, a lot of reunion players there, which gets me excited because I want to start seeing these guys break through into the very top.
And three Nigerian players as well, just randomly.
Nice.
If you didn't know that there was Nigerian players. So it was very diverse when it came to ACGL this past weekend, with the South African team, the French, and then the Nigerian team as well pulled in there, which is cool to see. And then Paul Rus Gymnasium, of course, we talk about high school kind of schools and leagues, and they had Ender on the field there as well. So I think in terms of what Yuckles is doing with their school esports program, there is it seems like Ender's making a move to Paul Rus Gym from the Curo Durbanville. So I don't know, it's probably not obviously predominantly for esports, but that's just a bonus, is that Paul Rus has got a good esports program as well. And so if you look at that team of like Teacher, Ender on it, that's not going to be too bad, right? So I mean, they didn't end up finishing kind of too well, I think, for a brand new team and working on the synergy and stuff. No Fear actually beat them. They're 3-0 as your bracket is showing. But yeah, I mean, there's something going on there. There's a bit of future with Ender joining the team. That should be interesting, right? I think Paul Rus seems to be building such a strong kind of school team in esports in general that, yeah, it's pretty promising for the grassroots kind of stuff and how people come up. So that should be pretty good.
Do you have the Legends roster? Because I was watching those games specifically to get a look at Willant, but there's another player. What's the roster? Because there was another player that really impressed me.
Yeah, so Tesco, Rookie, and Willant. The captain is Tesco and then Rookie.
I can't remember which of those. Oh man, I wish I'd written down the name. But there were, I mean, Willant was good. I was expecting a little bit more, but he's obviously still growing, and this might be his first tournament. And being on
Tesco was pretty good. Tesco, I think, had got a hat trick in one of the games we watched. Yes, Tesco was very good.
So, and I'm not sure what their plans are and how far they come, but certainly great representation from Reunion, and a huge up to ACGL for getting them in, because I think in the first grind it was South Africa only, so they've now expanded it out, which is because if you get the French on board and they get behind something, I mean, we know how insane those fans are and players and their communities.
Well, that's a kind of a beautiful segue here, Greybeard, because this is the first time that we did a dual bilingual cast where the Reunion casters came through on the other ACGL channel, and we had a French broadcast at the same time as well, which
fantastic.
is super. Yeah,
That's
so we
very
had
cool.
myself and Altruism doing the English broadcast. We had Silos and company on the other side throwing up the French broadcast. They had Blank producing for them. And yeah, it was absolutely brilliant to see because they went absolutely ham on that French broadcast as well. And their numbers were good, hey? Listen,
That's
the
good.
French guys come through and the numbers were superb there on the _alpha channel. So yeah, it was really cool.
Okay, good stuff. And the other team we have to talk about is Astronic, and we have to talk about them because they did really well here. They came second, beaten by WRG, but it was a close thing. They almost got the reset, but then also 2/3 of that team did very well in the Rumble. So and we'll talk about them earlier, but they seem. They did very well in the Rumble, but that wasn't just a once-off. They're also doing well in the grind. So clearly, because these are players we know: JRS, Nitro, Zyro, and who was the other one?
Physics.
Physics was on the Astronic team. I mean, these are names I know. They've been around, and suddenly they seem to be maybe on the cusp of breaking through to that higher level.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So that's kind of, the major talking point I can bring up here as well. As Astronic played superbly well. Yeah, Nitro and JRS, they kind of straddled those two tournaments between the Regional Rumble and in the ACGL grind. And they played, out of their minds, right? So they've got Zyro on the one roster. They've got Physics and Sub-Zero here on the other roster. And these guys did so superbly well, right? I mean, when they played WRG, right, there was an upper bracket game. They went to game 5, 3-2, right? So already a good start. Then they fall down, they play in the lower bracket run, they get a 3-0, another 3-0, and then against Legends, which has got Willington and them, they go 3-1. And these guys were crazy. They were pulling off double hat tricks, as Altruism put it. So like Physics had scored 6 goals in one of those games. These guys went absolutely buck wild. Perfect passing between each other. Nitro and JRS were just superb on the field. And then I think Sub-Zero played like once. I think there was an issue with one of the guys, but Physics was on the majority of that time. And geez, Louise just played stupidly there. So then they meet WRG in that final. Now you have to bracket reset as well, right? I mean, you were watching. They go to game 7, so incredibly close, and they just lose. Which was, because Friction as always, Friction and the WRG outfit were just having a cracker day. But yeah, Astronic almost forced that bracket reset there, Graben, and it would have been so cool. Didn't happen, but
almost. We're all hoping for the bracket reset. That's it was a great series, and well done to them.
Yeah.
And as I said, we're going to talk about JRS and Nitro a bit more when we get to the Rumble. But so to wrap things up here, I've kind of hacked together some of the clips from some of the goals from the game, and I'm just going to play those in sequence as they happen. But in the clip. The goal of the day of Championship Sunday for me was JRS with his little musty, and you're going to get to see that. You're going to get to see that at the end.
It was so good.
Yeah. So here they are.
Oh boy, okay, Physics. Okay, Physics, we see you there. That's really 5-0 with the assist. Comes here off the wall of his kickoff, and Physics is just waiting while. But no fear, I don't want to say it was like a blowout, but
I've got to say, if you guys have not, he's coming out from Astronic, up and Physics, gonna slam it down. I mean, the minute before that was all the same though. Look how close together everyone is playing. Traditionally, we call that double committing to an area, not covering your other zones, causing too much problems. Instead, they've got work to do in the background. Nitro and Jarrett working together to keep that ball out. And each team testing the defensive prowess of their opponents. This time it's going to be Astronic again, and they're going to come out.
Maybe! Oh, Physics!
Oh my goodness, that was insane. Nitro doing the work to pop it back in Physics, who talks about this Astronic side off the wall. Not just that.
Yeah, tight angles from this Astronic side as well this past weekend. The series to go deep and try to get the reverse, the bracket reset coming out here because WRG already on that series point. Bringing it down is going to be Physics. Okay, late goal by Casper. I mean...
No, Mice. Don't get hopeful, my friend. 3 goals. Single push.
Here's the JRS goal.
Multiple attempts.
Yeah. No, it was perfect. He had the best musty flick up in the air to get it over the head of the defender there. So he held it up high, which is so nice.
Yo, good stuff.
Yeah, they were cooking. No, they were cooking. Between Nitro and JRS, they were doing so incredibly well. Then you saw how many goals Physics put in there. So, yeah, this roster was decent. So, I don't know if RLCS, ever comes back, Greybeard, or if we get that announcement late in the year. But Nitro, JRS, these guys played out their socks on the weekend. I promise you. It was beautiful.
All right, cool. Well, I think that is going to about wrap it up for ACGL Grind, and we will stay on ACGL and we'll get the community involved. We'll do what we have to do to make sure. Yeah, no. We're absolutely not going to leave the grind. We're gonna do this thing and make it huge. All right, cool. Well, Muzz, thank you very much for coming and giving us the breakdown of the ACGL Grind. And now to wrap up the evening is going to be the Rumble. And for that, of course, we bring in. Oh, hold on. I'm learning from my mistakes. I'm gonna actually drag him into the chat so he's here when I introduce him. Ultrazim, how you doing, broski?
Oh, fantastic, man. Hey, I'm happy that you remembered for me at least. So.
Hey, that's the advantage of going last, is everyone else gets to suffer the cock-ups and you arrive when it's all perfect. So
making me look good.
So you had yourself a busy weekend, and you have a busy weekend coming up. And we're spoiled for a lot of what's going down in Rocket League. So we're going to talk about two things. One, the Rumble that just happened, but the Rumble, the finals, the grand finals, the last 6 who are still in the Rumble competing for that, for the big dollars this Saturday. And that, of course, is the Rumble. And just as a quick reminder, I'm going to call up here. These were the rosters. Last Saturday, there were 2 groups, Group A and B, competing in a double elimination bracket. And one team being eliminated from each group. So that 6 players will play the single elimination bracket starting on Saturday. And so let's pick it up. Ultrazim in Group A, and we look at that first match. Bird, a team that's done well in the Rumble, but no huge surprise there against Spain.
Yeah, I mean, they had probably the hell group. I mean, Spain came through as their clear victors like we expected them. That other side, Water and Temporary formed. Both of those sides are full, chock-a-block with amazing players. Happy Meal, Tristan Defunct on one side, Skillsteel and Archeon and Darth on the other side. I mean, I'm not surprised that game went super close. So Bird kind of fought as hard as they possibly could, but I think it's really great that they made it to the top 8. Otherwise, yeah, they are not going to be present this coming weekend just because they had one hell of a hard run to try and get there.
And it is, look, they did, for me, they're the most improved roster. And I do believe they are the longest standing roster in the region. Old Josho, Gold Ninja, and Zeph, who've been together for some time now, and they did really, really well. And I was a little bit disappointed. Yeah, they were in a hard group up against really tough teams, but not winning a single game. I was kind of hoping they would at least sneak 1 or 2 along the way. But as you say, I mean, those rosters were pretty stacked. They were up on a little bit of a hiding to nothing.
I mean, when you consider that 4 of the 6 people they went up against are RLCS regional champions at one stage or another, I mean, that makes it pretty difficult. So, yeah, it's good to see them coming up. And again, like you say, they've grown a hell of a lot. And I think it comes from the fact that they've kind of pushed themselves into that top 10, top 8 parts of the region, teams in the region. You know, when you're going up against the best, you're going to keep getting better and better. So I'm really hoping that they continue to stay, as history has told us, as a unit and continue to grow as a team. Maybe get a really nice coach in, maybe organize some scrims and sit and do VOD reviews with some of these pro guys and be like, well, how are you punishing us over and over again? Because they seem to be a really good group of people that's working hard, and I like to see them being present in the conversation.
All right, so just a reminder on how this worked. So there were 8 teams playing this Saturday. 2 teams would be eliminated, 1 from each group. And the teams going through to the winners final both automatically qualified for day 2, the final day coming up on Saturday. And that was Spain and Water. But why you see Spain highlighted there is the bonus they get for winning is that they move straight to the semi-finals, not the quarters. So they get a huge advantage by winning the group. And another 3-0, they're like, snowy to die for and now sweaty. If there was ever a formidable team, that's one.
Yes, I must admit, if that came out as a new RLCS roster, I would not be disappointed.
It is confirmed.
Lovely. Yeah. Amazing. Certainly well deserved. Sweaty has been making massive strides in the scene, has proven himself time and time again. And he adds in new elements towards that lineup that, to die for, still doing the crazy first prong attack. And then Clarence is behind him all the way, taking some ridiculous shots from weird angles with Snowy being your anchor in the back line. I think it's a really nice synergy of the type of play styles that they bring to the field. And I think they have somehow leveled up on what Limitless used to do as well.
And that's tough, because that's a conversation we always have with Snowy about, how do you still maintain such a high level when there's no one above you, there's no one sharpening your swords, so it's a testament to the determination of those players that they continue to do it. So the three teams qualifying out of Group A, Spain, Water, and temporarily reformed, but Ultras, a little bit of, as I said last week, rotating the chairs in the old age home, because Mr. Lowe was there, then he bailed. He's like fully out of competitive Rocket League, or Rocket League altogether now, and they had to bring in Skill Steel, the retired Skill Steel, to come and compete.
There is no such thing as retired in Rocket League. It just, you take a break and you go to overtime eventually. So we might see Mr. Lowe coming back at some stage, but I understand when you're competing, when you're seeing the work that the guys are putting in to be at the top, to dedicate that much of your life to it as well still, if you've got other commitments, is a big ask to try and keep at that same standard. So I don't blame him, to be honest. But it's good to see Skill Steel being baited back into it for just another competition.
One more game.
One more. Psyonix is involved. Okay, now I'm in. Right.
All right, good. Well, let's move on now to Group B, the other group. Alt F4 against Kaiser Chiefs. Bonjour against Just Here for Cake. And Kaiser Chiefs, another surprise team. This is 2/3 of the Astronic team you saw in the grind. And it was pretty scary for Alt F4. They lost the opening 2 games. They almost went down to the upstart Kaiser Chiefs.
Man, when you were putting on those little clips in the previous segment, you just re-inspired that sort of awe that I felt this last weekend. I got to watch them the whole weekend, and I did not see obvious breaks in their play style. They were coming together so quickly. They were playing such an intricate and delicate style of Rocket League that I haven't seen out of this region. Something that we typically see in SSA is hit the ball really hard towards your opponent's net more than they do it towards yours. Whereas these guys were bringing it, the passing plays were fantastic. The way that they were backing each other up, the slight little touches to make space for your teammates were sending other teams all over the pitch. People were diving into challenges and the ball was gone by the time they got there. So it is certainly something I would love to see if they can utilize that same strategy now into this weekend. Because I think they've got something really cool there. See how the rosters, which of the 2 rosters, the Kaiser Chiefs or the Astronic roster, become the main roster going forwards. I think it might be the Astronic roster, but please, no one quote me on that. This is just heresy. But yeah, if they can just bring Zyro into that same mentality, I think that they are going to be a little bit more of a long-term threat than anyone gave them credit for. And they certainly showed. I mean, Alt F4, Werty, Ram, and Snoozy is top 3, top 4 teams in the country, without a doubt. And to be taken to game number 5 like that, so that is an achievement in of itself.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping we see. I don't know if the roster, because I think they were generally surprised as well. I don't think they were. This wasn't like a planned roster. I think it was 3 guys who got together and, hey, let's do these tournaments, and suddenly it goes as well as it did. And now it's like, oh my gosh, so now what do we do? So I'm sure there's conversations. I'm sure one or more of those players, maybe they get trials with other teams or other rosters. I don't know, but very, very interested to see how that goes and how far they can take it.
Yeah, 100%. They have a bright future ahead of them, and they're all still pretty young. So I'm not expecting them to be joining the retirement home anytime soon.
Yeah, they got to keep pushing. The rest of the bracket, though, was certainly not as one-sided as pool number one. Bonjour versus Just Here for Cake. I mean, this is a game. I love to see the fact that out of the 8 teams we get to see, I recognize every single one of the names, and I'm starting to become massive fans of them. Wurty, Ram, Snoozy for Alter, for Wheelu Guns Cam for Bonjour. I know you want to talk about them in their own contest. We'll get to them afterwards. But even Just Here for Cake, coming in third, you're still sitting with a Lycum, Daps, and Declan. These are phenomenal players that we're starting to breed in this region.
Absolutely, and I think Daps I'm particularly excited about, and I hope he finds a very good roster to be on, because I think he might have. If he can find the right roster, I think he's a player that can absolutely shine. In the Rumble, what we saw him doing for Just Here for Cake was amazing. Vastly improved player, and maybe not even improved, maybe just sort of unnoticed given the rosters he was on. I'm not entirely sure, but a huge future for him. But we have to talk about Bonjour, because this is another confirmed RLCS roster. Cams, Willu, and Guns, and look, they didn't sky their way through this group as Spain did, but I mean, look, we have the prospect of those two rosters meeting up this coming weekend, and I do think Spain still beats them, but I so badly want to see how close they are. But what a fantastic looking roster.
Man, Guns especially. Like Wheeler and Cam, we've seen plenty of times before, and they've always been stellar players, you know, sitting in that top 2, top 3. But Guns has been just like, he's got like a similar parallel story to Clarence, where he's come very quickly up the rosters, and for good reason. He's doing instrumental stuff. The mechanics that he's bringing out, his musty flick a couple of weeks ago will stick with me for a long time. It was one of the first times I got to see him, and I was just like, this kid has got talent right now. So very excited to see what he brings to this. And I'm gonna put myself on a bit of a chopping block right now, but
yes,
yeah, I know, right?
Yes.
You know, I don't like to make predictions, but I would put money on them Bonjour facing up against Spain. And I would say that this is probably the roster I would say has the most chance of beating Spain that we've had in a long time. You know, above all the old AGKs. And even the Orlando Pirates, you know, we're starting to see Limitless pulling away for a long time. But I think that these 3 together could actually put on one of the best contests we've seen in ages.
Well, I think that segues very nicely into looking forward to the bracket that's coming up on Saturday, starting at 5 o'clock. And there you see it's a single elimination bracket. Spain get a bye through to the semi-finals, as do Bonjour, by reason of finishing on top of their groups. And so in the first match, in the quarterfinals, is going to be Alt F4 versus Temporarily Reformed, and the second match there is going to be Just Here for Cake against Water. The losers of both those series are guaranteed $1,200, and then the winners will go through. And then we have, I mean, looking at that bracket, Ultrasm, the smart money, right, is on the Bonjour Spain final.
Yeah, I would put money on it right now, 100%. But, you know, Alter 4 versus Temp Reform is going to be a cracker of a match, let's be fair. I think whoever does go through is going to be very hard-pressed to take on Spain. I would put, it's best of 7, so I would put a 4-1 for whoever goes through there. Just Here for Cake versus Water, also a good match. And then Bonjour, yeah, I think also takes that pretty handedly. Probably about a 4-2 is the sort of scoreline. So I'm not seeing any of those teams really starting to step up unless there's just a weird clash of play styles, you know, where Water plays a lot slower than Bonjour and is able to just counterattack them really nicely, something like that. But Bonjour and Spain are definitely my go-to teams to watch for this weekend, and I think each of them is going to be relatively uncontested in their... Yo, I'm putting my money where my mouth is all over this podcast, man.
What do they say? Don't let your ass write checks, or don't let your mouth write checks. Your ass can't cash.
Yeah, so someone's going to tag me on Twitter when I get this horribly wrong. But honestly, if there is a resurgence from any of these 4 teams there in the first stage, I think that they're going to have done exceptionally well, and they've all obviously got the potential for it. So let's put a little caveats in what I'm saying. Everyone there is a phenomenal team, but I think that Bonjour and Spain have just set themselves a step ahead, not that anyone else is bad.
I do think, I think there's, based on what we've seen from these two teams, it would be an upset if it's not they in the finals. If Spain is overcome, that would be a gargantuan upset. And how, there's the potential of temporarily reform going through and beating Spain. And if that were to happen, that would be Darth getting one over Snowy and to die for, which would be a huge upset, and it would be amazing. But yeah, so I as brave as you're being with your mouth, I don't think you're entirely wrong. And just a quick run through on the prize pool. So whichever team loses in the semifinals will get, the two teams losing in the semis get $2,100. And then the loser in the grand final gets $3,000 and $4,200 to the winner. And there is a $500 MVP award. So the player that's determined to be the MVP of the tournament gets $500. But all of these matches are best of 7, and all of them are going to be streamed on Saturday from 5 o'clock on the APL Esports Twitch channel. So if you're not following there, make sure you go and do it so you can catch that. And Ultrazim, you and I will be back in action, casting that. And I look forward to doing another epic grand final with you.
Yeah, 100%. Like you kind of mentioned it earlier. I'm feeling rather privileged right now to get to see so much of SSA. The guys are doing me so proud every time I get up on stream. I mean, it becomes so easy to get hyped when guys are making it as exciting and as high level as they have been recently. Even down to the RSC, even the guys in the prospect, it's good to see those bottom levels. But this weekend is a special moment for me. It's as close to RLCS as we can get. And the fact that we've kind of distilled it down to the top 6 teams in the country, I'm looking forward to this, man. There is nothing more important to me this Saturday. And I hope there's, to you guys on Twitch, nothing more important to you as well, because this is going to be the highlight. This is going to be like the culmination of what 2 years worth of improvements and roster changes and innovations and adaptations is going to be. This Saturday is going to be fantastic from the starting moment.
All right. Well, I think that then segues, again, you're being very good with the segues, Ultrazim, into let's consider our lives 2 years ago, just when RLCS had just started. There was a lot of excitement, obviously, but prior to that, nothing going on. Our off-season last year was terrible. It was like this long desert, the tumbleweeds, nothing was happening. It was a big struggle. This off season has been huge. We've seen the start of RSC. We've had this Psionic sponsored Rumble event, which is fantastic with some good money. We've had the ACGL grind. I mean, we really have been spoiled. I couldn't believe it last week with 3 days of the grind, and then the Rumble event as well, and now the culmination of that. And for next year, I think the 4 really important things that are going to be huge for us, and there are lots of discussions underway on how we collaborate with these things, so they all help and feed each other. And Ultrazim, I don't know if you caught what I was saying to Muzz about ACGL being a little bit disappointed with the lack of involvement from the RL Rocket League community on the grind, which I completely understand that they'd be upset with that, and they go, why are we bothering with these guys? But we have to campaign them. We cannot lose the grind. We've got to get it, and then we've got to show up huge for the next grind, which is around February, March next year. So the 4 big things for SSA next year is the ACGL grind. It is RSC, that ongoing league. And then, of course, VS Gaming. Conversations going on. VS really, really want to make a proper run of Rocket League next year. And then, of course, RLCS. RLCS being the king of it all. And we're pretty much waiting for their announcement so we can figure out the schedules, all the schedules around that. But we'll have RLCS running for the year. We'll have VS Gaming, which will probably be 3 tournaments leading up to the grand finals at Comic-Con. ACGL grind is, I think they might have 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons next year. And then RSC is probably going to be 2 or 3 seasons. So there is a lot going on. And I want to make all of them huge. I want to make all of them so big that, I want to keep the top players occupied, Ultrazim, in RLCS, so that the up and coming players can take over the grind and what's the other one? And VS, right? So it opens the pool a bit.
Yeah, 100%. You know, for a long time, we had one or two tournaments. So every good player was there. And it kind of pushed aside a lot of the people who were trying to get it. They were all going, what's the point of us taking part if we're going to get flattened in the first couple of rounds and not go anywhere? So, like you say, having these different tiers. I mean, Muzz was even talking about it earlier. Even stuff like ACGL, schools, and university leagues, we're starting to get the continuation. You talked about what it was like 2 years ago. And you and I sat and had a long discussion about this, about where we saw this all going, you know, what sort of structures, what we were hoping for, what the dream was. And I think we're really getting to see that dream starting to become a reality. The fact that we've got continuity, the fact that we're getting people scouted, people like Ender, who's in grade 8. He's a 13-year-old guy and he's making names for himself across, you know, the RSC. That's Brilliant. The sort of build up that we really wanted to get to see in Rocket League. And, you know, you're 100% right. RLCS is capping that mountain there, but it's not just this massive jump for a team who's going to get embarrassed when they go to RLCS. Or there's a pathway, there's a clear pathway now. And, you know, one of the big risks that we do see with having so many different tournaments is that guys get burnt out. They don't have the capabilities. And that's something that sort of, I think, happened with ACGL Grind. As Muzz said, people were distracted for a long time, you know, between all the action, where do I even put in my stuff? But you mentioned that we tied them together. Whenever you're starting to highlight something about RLCS, tag RLZA Grind. You know, whenever you're talking about RSC, it's not a competition between the different tournaments. It's a continuation of Rocket League in the region.
Yes.
And I love to see that. And as long as we can all kind of come together on that same point, wherever you as a player, as a manager, as a coach, as a caster, wherever you fit in, go do that job as best as you can, and let's build this thing together, because we've come so far, and it kind of weirdly enough feels like it's only just getting started, right?
And I think that's incredibly well put. And the advantage we have, being the smallest region in the world, if you look at North America, all the many things that they've got going on in North America and Europe, they're all separate to each other. The RSC's got nothing to do with, and they don't really interact and connect. Our player base is such that we can be a real community. Eventually, we're going to get really, really big, and then it's going to be its own problem. But for now, there's enough going that we can all sit at the dinner table and have our fair share of it, but we all have to bring something to the table. So I do believe 2024 is going to be epically huge for us. And Ultrism, well, I think that's a good place to wrap it all up. And we're going to go and raid somebody. So we've got our choices to raid are Shens, Yoshi, Kirika.
Yoshi, my man's been popping off this week, right?
Okay, let's go do Yoshi, because he was all over the awards. He's doing well for himself. He's the admin in my Discord and a mod on the stat. Let's go and raid Yoshi. All right, let's get that going. The raid is on the way. Go say how's it to Yoshi and follow him if you aren't, and encourage him to do better than he has been doing already. Ultrism, thanks for coming to hang out and giving us your insight into everything.
Amazing. And guys, can we hype up Greybeard? The fact that this man is like highly involved with every tournament organization, that he's putting on podcasts like this, that he's involved in all the casting. This man is trying to really lead the charge for everyone. So I want some Twitch chats. I want all the tags on Twitter and stuff for a man who is genuinely more passionate about Rocket League than anyone I've seen. And Greybeard, man, what a chance. I'll see you this Saturday.
Absolutely. I can't wait. And thank you very much for that. And now I'm a bit scum, so I'm going to end the stream now. Peace. Bye. Thank you for that, Buzz.